fine? It's fine. Hey everybody, Dennis Prescott here from the Traeger kitchen. Today is all about comfort food, and to me, nothing on planet Earth is more comforting than a lasagna. It's happiness, it's just the best kind of warming meal that you can possibly have. You can make it ahead of time, of course. You can make it on the day. What we're gonna do today is we're gonna make the Bolognese from scratch. That in and of itself is a recipe. And then the lasagna, of course, is a recipe. So you're getting a BOGO situation today. Both of these cooked on the Traeger, so we really fill every single bit of this dish with that extra little bit of wood-fired goodness. It's absolutely incredible. Of course, this recipe is from my new cookbook, Cook with Confidence. It's available now in stores. Go out, get this book. It's all about recipes that are meant for serving for a family, to eat as a community. They're all accessible, delicious, attainable dishes like this one we're gonna make today. So when you make a Bolognese, Bolognese is probably the most popular meat sauce on planet Earth. Maybe there's an argument against that, but I would say it probably is. So often, if I make a dish like this, I will prep maybe double or even triple sometimes the actual quantity, freeze that for a rainy day in January when it's cold and you don't know what to cook. It's a great option for that. Bolognese to me is all about getting our veggies ready first. You can really just a lot of these kind of root vegetables you can have on hand in the fridge. You might have them already anyway, but we're gonna add a few different little tips and tricks here to just take ours to kind of the next level. So we're going in with a classic carrot, onion, celery mixture. So first you just want to get your veggies ready to go. But I'll tell you, as a kid, my mom, she made very few dishes, but she made a great lasagna. And to me, so the best food in the world reminds you of being a kid. It's nostalgic. It brings you back to those times, whether it was your mom, your dad, your friends, whoever cooking for you. The best dishes are full of nostalgia, are full of memory, and they just kind of bring you back. And I feel like if you're somebody who is just starting your cooking journey, you're trying to decide, like, what do I actually cook? How do I get into this? Cook those dishes that remind you of those best times in life, whether it was your mom or dad cooking, your aunt, your uncle, your friend, because you already know you love them, you're gonna pull them off, and you know how they're supposed to taste. So just as you're kind of working through your vegetables, I mean, you can cut them super fine. I definitely wouldn't stress about this. Of course, this is gonna cook down over a few hours into this sauce and become very beautiful and delicious. So don't stress on it. If you wanna go super fine with it, that's cool. If you wanna be a little more rustic, that's okay. Choose your own adventure. So all of our veg into a bowl. This is all going in at the exact same time, so just grab one big bowl, chuck it all in. All right, set this veg aside for a minute. As with everything with cooking, we're building in layers, we're building a house, we're building it from the ground up. So we're gonna use some nice fresh herbs. We've got rosemary here. To me, rosemary in anything beef is absolutely delicious, but it's beautiful in a Bolognese. Best friend to rosemary is thyme. Just grab your thyme sprigs, kind of run your finger through, and get those beautiful little leaves off. You could, of course, if you don't want to chop these, you could just chuck these in, tie them off. But I kind of enjoy just having the actual leaf itself in the Bolognese. And then the last thing that we're gonna do, for me, anything pasta driven, I find it hard to not add basil. I love fresh basil. To me, it's just one of the best smells on absolute planet Earth. The thing that we often do with basil though is we just use the leaves. We forget about the fact that the basil stems themselves are packed full of flavor. Obviously, we don't want to waste anything and chuck it in the bin. So this adds a great depth of flavor in the base of your sauce as you're kind of working through it. So grab your basil stems, and just cut those down. And then these are all gonna go in together with our herbs. And then combine everything, just give it one last little chop. Put this in a bowl, and it's time to start our sauce. All right, chopping is all done. We're gonna move back to the induction burner and get our sauce started. So we have a pan on our induction over medium heat. I'm gonna go in with olive oil. Add a good amount of olive oil, be a little generous here. Then we're gonna go in with some chili flakes. It's gonna add both a nice little bit of heat, and it's gonna flavor this oil as well. So just let that sit for about a minute or so. It's gonna bloom, and it's gonna create a beautiful base for our actual bolognese. Next, we're gonna go in with our veggies. Just get them all in there. Season that with a little bit of salt. We want to season throughout the cooking process at every single step that makes sense. It's like building a house, you know, we don't want to season all at the end. I see that so often where people will season one time throughout the cooking process. We want to season a little bit here, a little bit there, so that our dish is just beautifully well-rounded and seasoned. So we're just going to let these veggies just sweat down. These are going to be going for maybe 5-7 minutes until they're kind of softened, the onions are translucent, and then we'll move on to our next step. Next, we're gonna go in with these herbs, the rosemary, the thyme, and those basil stems. Give that a mix. We're gonna add a lot of garlic. You can chop these, of course. I'm just gonna take a microplane and go straight in. We're just gonna let this cook down for probably, 30, 45 seconds. Next, we're gonna add some tomato paste. Go right in with that. With tomato paste, you really wanna cook that down. Give it a minute or two. Make sure to stir that so it hits all of those veggies. And once that's all incorporated and you've cooked that down, we're gonna add beef. And we're gonna add sausage. And again, just a pinch of salt. And just work your way with your spoon, break this meat apart, work it down, and then we're gonna add some nice color to it. Just let it get a little bit browned, then we'll move on to the next step in the bolognese. So when your protein is at about this point, we're gonna go in with red wine. Bring that to a simmer. We're just gonna let that reduce, and then we'll add the remaining liquids. When your wine has reduced, we're gonna go in with some passata, crushed tomatoes, that works as well. With a little bit of balsamic vinegar, just beautiful in here. Adds a nice depth of flavor, also a little sweetness, which is great. Some beef stock. And the last thing we're gonna add in here is a little chunk of this Parm rind. Keep these. If you have Parm in your fridge, once you get to the end, the rind is still left. Make sure to keep these. They are absolutely a secret weapon when it comes to sauces. So just chuck that in there. That's gonna nicely flavor this as it cooks down. Now, a little bit of salt. And now we're gonna pop this on the grill. And thankfully, we have one that's been on here already. And it's ready to go. So this bolognese has been on the grill for about 3 hours, cooking down, taking in all that beautiful smoke and flavor. It smells perfect. It is perfect, just as it is. But we're gonna add a few things to just take it up a little bit of a notch. First thing we're gonna do is go in with Parm, To me, more cheese, better, always, with everything, every dish. So good bit of Parm in there. You can, add as much as you like, I would say, from a Parm side of things, but remember that we're putting this in a lasagna and there's gonna be a ton of cheese in there. So we just want it really to work its way into the actual Bolognese. Grab your microplane. We're gonna go in with lemon zest. Lemon zest in this just adds a beautiful brightness. And of course, if you've ever watched any video I use lemon zest that I've been on, I use lemon zest a lot. I both love the flavor. I love that you're not adding any unnecessary liquid to your dish. I also love that it's another way of getting the full maximum use out of citrus, whether that's lemons, oranges, whatever you're using. Just try to use the whole thing if possible. And we're gonna add some fresh basil. And this Bolognese right now, I mean, you would wanna, of course, cool it to room temperature first, but you can do this well in advance. This freezes perfectly. You can pop it in the fridge if you wanna make it a couple days in advance of you making the lasagna. So this, to me, is a dish done. The lasagna is just that extra little icing on the cake that we're gonna use. But what I will do often, like I mentioned, is I'll make a batch or two of this, freeze it for a rainy day, and make lasagna in February or in April or whenever it's time for you to make lasagna. This is great to have on hand. Bolognese is ready to go. To me, the best lasagna has a few components. One is a Bolognese. The next is a perfect Béchamel sauce. So we're gonna set this aside and move on to our Béchamel. It doesn't get much more classic than a Béchamel. To me, you can use this in about 15,000 different ways, in with a massive knob of butter. Of course, adding it to lasagna, it's hot. It's very hot. If you put butter in and does that, take it off the heat, let it cool down. It's fine. It's fine. Cooking is about being hands-on. But Béchamel adds this just beautiful, luscious deliciousness to a lasagna. It is an extra step, to be fair, but it is well worth just taking the extra step. And like I say, a Béchamel can be used in a bunch of different ways, flavored in a bunch of different ways. We're doing a more classic version, of course, today, but you can use this as a base for a ton of different recipes. When your butter's melted, we're gonna go in with flour. Just whisk that in. You kind of want to let this cook down for a minute or two, develop some nice color. That depth of flavor in our roux is going to be absolutely delicious, and it of course creates that foundation for our sauce. Once that's cooked down for a few minutes, we're going to grate in garlic, just go right over. Cook that garlic down for about 30 seconds, and then we're going to incorporate our milk. You need to be a turtle with this. Slow and steady wins the race. Just a little bit at a time. I'm gonna add a little pinch of salt in here. Basically just kind of watch this a little, you wanna keep your eyes on it. It's gonna come to just a very gentle simmer. It's gonna thicken, become beautiful, and we have a few more ingredients to add, but just give this the time that it needs to kind of reach that point in the cooking process. So this looks thick and lovely right now. A little bit more salt, a little cracked black pepper. And then the last thing we wanna do, good bit of Parm. Give that a nice mix, let that cheese work its way. This sauce just by itself smells amazing. Once that cheese is nicely incorporated, last two things we want to add, very classic, a little bit of grated nutmeg. And just to kind of finish the story here, a little bit more of this lemon zest. Perfect. So this is done, our Bolognese is done. Now it's just time to build our lasagna. Best part of building a lasagna, of course, is actually building it. We've got the Béchamel, we've got this beautiful Bolognese, we've got a little bit of fresh, just chopped basil as well, and of course our cheese. So now it's just time to build, make those layers, go to town. First, we'll go in with a layer of the Bolognese. And just spread this out evenly. So we just want a thin layer of this Bolognese on here. A little bit of Béchamel. Doesn't hurt anybody's feelings. Then it's time to add our pasta and continue with the layering process. So I like to go kind of heavy with ingredients on this top layer. Goes without saying, just spread this all out, make sure that every bit of the pasta just has a little coating of every different topping that you're putting on here. Going with a good bit of this Béchamel. Lots of fresh basil. And then of course, just load a mountain of cheese on top of this. What I love to do, obviously, you can kind of mix and match whatever cheese down the road. My preference in this recipe is a combination of mozzarella and fresh grated Parm. So we're gonna hit the top of it as well with a little bit of this Parm. And then the last thing I like to do just before I put the lasagna on the grill is a nice little drizzle of olive oil. And then this is gonna go on our grill for about 45 minutes to an hour. Keep an eye on it on the 45-minute mark, and then we'll go from there. Thankfully, we have got one that has already been on there. It smells like heaven in a bite. It looks incredible, golden, beautiful crust on top of this lasagna. I love the crispy bits that develop on the corners of the lasagna. It's probably my favorite part as well. This looks absolutely insane. I can't wait to eat this, but I'm gonna have to. Lasagna needs to rest. You need to hold off for a minute, let this take the time that it needs to set. It is gonna take a few minutes. It is worth it instead of cutting into it. If you've cut into lasagna too early, it kind of falls apart. We wanna try to avoid that. So we're gonna let this rest. Moment of truth. And that to me looks pretty unbelievable, honestly. And we're just gonna go on, nice little bit of basil on top of here. And then of course, no one ever said no to more Parm. And this to me, honestly, this is comfort food embodied. It's happy food. It's perfect for cool weather evenings. And it is packed full of flavor. The Bolognese is delicious, nice bit of smoke from it being on the grill. The Béchamel just adds a beautiful richness to this. Of course, the lasagna itself being on the grill, that's just the cherry on top of the cake from a flavor side of things. We're really building beautiful flavors throughout this entire dish, which is absolutely lovely. Of course, the full recipe is in the caption below and at Traeger.com. So many more recipes that you should make over there. Like and subscribe to Traeger across all social platforms. Make this recipe. If you want to be new best friends, same best friends, fall in love, this is what you need to make. Go make this lasagna. Have a delicious day, everybody.